everyone, and welcome to the first video for our class on social work administration. This is going to be an introduction to what human service organizations are and what they do. Before we get started, I want to just answer the first question most students think about this class, which is, why do we need this class? Especially because it can seem kind of dry, maybe a little boring, although I'm going to do my best to liven things up. But the real reason why this class is important is because the vast majority of social workers work in human service organizations. So it's important to know a little something about the environment that you're going to be working in. And in fact, the organizational base of social work practice is rooted in the history of our profession. In fact, when we look at social policies, whether that be in the form of federal or state or local legislation, and the funding patterns of those policies, as well as societal sanctions, this can help explain why so much of our practice as social workers is done via human service organizations. So if you think back to the history of social work class, you can see, based on all of these policies, you can see why social workers practice primarily via HSOs. In fact, social workers practice in a variety of human service organizations, such as hospitals, clinics, schools. And then within these varied settings, social work is approached in different ways. For example, some human service organizations provide specific services, such as maybe mental health or child and family services. Other human service organizations, such as hospitals and schools, actually have a primary purpose that's something other than human services, but they still provide human services because it is consistent with their missions. So for example, a hospital's primary mission is to treat patients who are sick. That's their primary goal. But they also provide social services via the medical social workers who are employed there. And they do this because the medical social workers help support the primary mission of the hospital. So what are human service organizations? One way to think about it is to think about how they're different. So human service organizations have a variety of different missions. They address problems that clients of various backgrounds have. They are offered in different locations. They have different physical environments, different management styles, different levels of funding or financial conditions. They may have different staff sizes and different organizational cultures, both formal and informal. What they all have in common, however, is an orientation to the prevention, amelioration, or resolution of health, mental health, social, or environmental problems that afflict individuals, families, specific groups, or communities. Okay, I was trying to keep up with the animation, but clearly that didn't work. Okay, so let's slow it down. So what they have in common is an orientation to the prevention, amelioration, or resolution of health, mental health, social, or environmental problems that afflict individuals, families, specific groups, or communities. So if we look at this commonality, it just sounds like social work. This is what social work is. So when we think of it in terms of, in the context of human service organizations, then you can see the clear alignment between these two. Okay, so what do HSOs do and how do they operate? Well, let me tell you. They operate under different auspices, for example, nonprofit, for-profit, or government. And then depending on their mission, they address different types of problems, like maybe marital discord, depression for individuals, poverty, unemployment, etc. They provide different types of services. So they could provide marital therapy, case management. They're also oriented to different treatment goals. For example, some HSOs might be focused on prevention, while others are focused on problem resolution or maybe symptom alleviation. HSOs also serve different client populations. For example, an HSO could serve the homeless, while another is for children with learning disabilities, or maybe another is people with chronic mental illness, etc. And lastly, they may employ different modalities, different treatment modalities. So there's group work, casework, community organizing, all of the different practices that we have. And in some ways, they are very similar to other types of organizations, such as businesses, except the business of human service organizations is to address the human condition rather than produce a product in the case of business. So they are in the business of providing programs of service to address the needs of individuals, groups, and communities. And how do they do this? By planning, provision, and evaluation of a wide range of services to prevent or ameliorate interpersonal, community, and social problems. So human service organizations take their purpose from the societal needs and priorities as defined by the larger social environment at any given time. In many ways, social work practice is defined, facilitated, and at the same time constrained by the purposes and operating modes of human service organizations. And if you recall back to the Hasenfeld reading that I made some videos for as well, he also talks about how human service organizations are constrained by the institutional environment that surrounds them. And in fact, according to Hasenfeld, HSOs are a symbol of a caring society. So they are the manifestation of the social obligation to the welfare and well-being of its members. Simultaneously, HSOs are seen as overly bureaucratic, rigid, obtrusive, controlling, inefficient, and wasteful. So how can this be? How can they be simultaneously this symbol of how much we care about our citizens and then simultaneously have all these negative connotations? Well, this harkens back actually to the history class that we had, where we went over this concept of how social welfare in any society has two major purposes. Social treatment, in other words, helping people, but also social control, controlling behavior. So we simultaneously want to help, but under specific conditions and only if people do what we tell them to do. So I hope all of that is coming back because we're building on what we learned in that class. Okay. So the only other thing I want to talk about here in this video is the context of human service organizations, the environment, if you will. So when we're talking about understanding people, we focus on the person and the environment. That's sort of the hallmark of social work, right? Well, we also then have to think about organizations in their environment. Now, what would this look like? Well, borrowing Kettner's conceptualization, here's what it would look like. So here we have the organization, and the organization is surrounded by various economic factors in the environment, sociological factors, political and professional factors, and technological factors. And the organization not only interacts with all of these four factors, but there are actors within each of the factors. You like what I did there? Actors and the factors. Anyways, they interact as well. So that's why we have these arrows going this way as well. And this is what Kettner refers to as the task environment within which the organization operates. Okay, so that's all for this video. Make sure you check out the Hasenfeld video series where I go over different parts of his chapter 2. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, email me or leave a comment below. Okay, thanks, bye.